Hello, candle lovers! Thank you for tuning in to me today. My name is Greg, and this is all Aboot Candles, and welcome to this episode of the weekly wax wrap-up. This is when I go through all of the candles that I finished burning recently, talk about how they smelled, how they performed, all of that good stuff. We've got some candles from Candle Day that I managed to finish burning. I haven't had time to record a weekly wax wrap-up for a while, and I do apologize for that. It's just that time of year, you guys. But what that means is that I have got a lot of candles to talk to you about this week. Holy smokes, I might be going for a record here with the length of this video. So grab yourselves a snack, get comfortable, and please know that I do mark all of my videos with chapters. So feel free to navigate to whatever parts of this video might be the most interesting to you. After we get through all of the candles, we're going to talk a little bit about Bath & Body Works news because we've got candles that are getting spotted that we can expect for semi-annual sale. We've got spring candles that have been getting spotted in the store. I'm going to answer a burning question and reveal what my top 5 favorite Bath & Body Works Christmas candles are. And at the end of all of that, we are going to have to do a recap of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City and the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Whew, let me tell you guys, I just got back from the gym, but I've got a feeling that this is going to be my real workout for the day. Does anybody else like drinking ice cold coconut water out of a Gilmore Girls Luke's Diner mug? No, just me? All right, the cheese stands alone. Let's talk about some of these Candle Day candles right off the bat here. I finished this smoked vanilla. And man, did I ever love this fragrance. So they had this collection of candles that they were calling like From the Vault. And this one here says that it first came out in 2016. I've got to say that I kind of wish that they had done a little bit better job of the packaging for these From the Vault candles. Like, there was just really nothing special about them at all. You know, they all just had like plain colored wax and boring metallic lids and just like sort of square or rectangular labels in the center of them. I mean, I guess I'm biased because this is the collection that I was looking forward to the most, a lot of these From the Vault fragrances. And so, I don't know, I was kind of just hoping they'd do something that popped a little bit more with the packaging on these candles. It's not terrible, but it's not great. I'm not a big fan of the font that they use in this label. It's almost like a little bit hard to read, like there's just no pop to a lot of these labels. And this smoked vanilla, I guess it looks kind of like nice and classy, but also just kind of boring. I did, however, love the fragrance. The scent notes on smoked vanilla are creamy vanilla, smoked sandalwood, and rich bourbon. And this reminds me a little bit of my beloved Bath & Body Works single wick, like that black and gray single wick collection that they did that had that vanilla candle in it. That vanilla candle is actually fairly similar to this smoked vanilla, but not an identical repackage. They definitely had their differences. I really, really like this fragrance a lot. It smells fantastic to me. Once again, I'm a little bit biased because I am a huge vanilla fragrance lover. I will take a vanilla candle any way that I can get it. You know, to me, vanilla fragrances are a little bit like pizza, or a little bit like sex, you know, like some is better than others, but they're all good. Anyways, this smoked vanilla is just so rich and deep, and it's got like this sort of woodsy vibe to it, and also a bit of a boozy component as well, like a smoky, boozy component. I really, really love this. I love it because it's a bit of a deeper, richer vanilla fragrance without being in any way sort of like, you know, like a bakery gourmand vanilla fragrance that we get so much of. This is a really nice take on vanilla, and it's sort of a lower ranging fragrance. You know, it's not really highly pitched like what you get from the Bath & Body Works Vanilla Bean candle. It's got a really nice sort of layered depth to it, and that smokiness in here just really seals the deal for me, and it complements the woodsiness and the depth of that sort of boozy component so nicely nicely. And throughout the entire fragrance, you just have this lovely, like rich, smooth, creamy, like semi-sweet vanilla component that I just think is absolutely lovely. The problem with this candle for me though was the performance and the strength and throw. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, you guys, but actually a lot of these candles that I'm gonna talk about today that I got during Candle Day, a lot of them were just not hitting the mark for me when it came to strength and throw. I'd say that smoked vanilla in my more open space, it was really getting very lost. I'd say maybe it was like a 4 for strength and throw. I felt like I had to be standing fairly close to it. Like even when it was like lower, like on my coffee table and it was burning, I felt like I had to be, about 4 feet away from it to really be able to smell it. So it definitely wasn't giving me what I would have liked for it to in my more open room. So it spent most of its time in the bedroom. And I'd say that in the bedroom, it was maybe getting to like a 5 or a 5.5. So it definitely had sort of a presence in the bedroom. I could walk in there and I could detect it. I would have really loved for this candle to have been like a 6 in my more open space, and then like a 6.5 or a 7 in the bedroom. And I do think it's one of those fragrances that would have been really, really lovely if it did pack a little bit more of a punch and hit a little bit harder. I hate to say it, but I was so disappointed with this one. You know, like I would have loved to have had this in my more open space. In the bedroom, there was like a minimal baseline presence to it, which was acceptable, but I was just a little bummed. I mean, I bought like 3 or 4 of these. I'm probably gonna try the next one out under a heat lamp and just melt it and see if I get a little bit more out of it that way. I don't have any real complaints about the way it burned. It burned really nicely and cleanly all the way down to the bottom there. It never really went through a phase of it was like dudding out or giving me really bad like itty bitty wicks and teeny tiny flames. There were definitely some burns after the halfway point that weren't like really, powerhouses. I'd say the best parts of the candle were like the middle third of the candle. And then it was a little bit of a struggle sometimes on the last couple of burns. But for the most part, if I just let it be, it would kind of fix itself and get going again. And so it was a nice, clean, even burn, just not the strength and throw that I was hoping for. And like I said earlier, unfortunately, that's going to be the theme, I think, for a lot of the Candle Day candles that I purchased and I'm about to discuss. Speaking of, we've got Vanilla Snowflake here. This was another weak one, folks. I love this fragrance though, and I was really happy to see this one come back. Once again though, really kind of a boring packaging job on here. Not terrible, just nothing to be excited about. Except I was excited for this candle. I was excited for this fragrance. I really like Vanilla Snowflake. I think that it's a really good sort of winter twist on a vanilla fragrance. The scent notes on here are frozen vanilla, iced fir needles, mint leaf, and coconut flakes. Yeah, I've always really liked this fragrance ever since it first started coming out in like 2012. It does have that sort of chilly winter air vibe to it, a nice smooth vanilla. You do pick up just a tiny bit on some fir needles, a teeny bit of mint leaf, and some coconut. Those are all scent notes that are definitely there, but they're not super loud. The predominant fragrance in here is definitely that vanilla note, but it's sort of cooled down and almost like thinned out a little, not thinned out in a bad way, but it's just kind of cooled and thinned out by the mintiness and that sort of light and vague coconut vibe in here. It does give it that sort of nice kind of wintry, outdoorsy feel. Yeah, I've always really, really enjoyed Vanilla Snowflake. However, once again, when it comes to strength and throw, this just was not doing it for me, folks. I'd say this was about the same as the smoked vanilla, kind of lost in my more open space. I'd say it was like a 4, maybe a 4.5. I did have it in the bedroom for some time. I'd say, yeah, it was like I could walk into the bedroom and detect it, so I'd give it a 5 in the bedroom. I put this in the small bathroom for a little while. It did better in there, obviously. Like in the small bathroom, it was probably hitting like a 6, I'd say. But that is in the small bathroom. I mean, really kind of disappointing for strength and throw. However, the candle did burn really nicely. This one burned all the way until it's extinguished itself. As you can see, 2 of the wicks kind of gave up and that last one kept going for a while. Really nice, clean burn for the most part. This one was never giving me issues with dudding out or itty bitty wicks and teeny tiny flames. It was a pretty good, even burn from top to bottom, just not the strength and throw that I was hoping for. And I was in part disappointed because I burned another vanilla snowflake this winter, and this version is from 2022, and this version did better. And so this is like, to me, I mean, this is just really solid evidence that sometimes Bath & Body Works candles just get weaker. They're lowering the fragrance in some of these candles. Sometimes I do wonder if they lower the fragrance for candles during Candle Day because they know that the majority of these candles are going to be getting sold at really cheap price points. And so they cheap out a little bit on the production of them, the packaging, the fragrance oils. This version from 2022 performed quite a bit better. It did not come with this lid. I put this lid on this candle. I think that this just came with a regular, boring metallic lid. I'm not sure. I can't remember where I got this one from. I think it was from a candle that came out last year or the year before. I think it was it like Mexican hot chocolate or something like that? Anyways, I just thought it was a really appropriate lid for a vanilla snowflake. This candle also performed really nicely, burned well all the way down to the bottom, but this one was stronger. I'm not going to say that it was a powerhouse, but this one was noticeably stronger. I could burn it in my more open space and it would get to like a 5. So in my more open space, it was detectable. And so I kept it in my more open space for the most part and never moved this one into the bedroom. I really could notice that this one smelled stronger. And I mean, that's just unfortunate, but I think that, there's a lot of discussion right now on Bath & Body Works and the quality of a lot of their products. And, it's not the first time that I've noticed that a Bath & Body Works candle has become a little bit lighter over the years. We're going to get to Under the Christmas Tree in a moment. And that's another good example. This one from 2023, it was also noticeably stronger than this one that we got this year as well. Anyways, next I wanted to talk to you about Peppermint Marshmallow because this was another one of the From the Vault Candle Day candles. Once again, just overall really boring packaging, boring lid. This one's From the Vault 2015, and the scent notes on Peppermint Marshmallow are crushed peppermint, fluffy marshmallows, and powdered sugar. And I like this one too. I really do. I mean, if we're ranking these candles, my favorite is the smoked vanilla. Second favorite is vanilla snowflake. And this is my third favorite because this one it does lean just a little bit sweeter than I would like for it to, but it does have a really nice sort of fluffy and minty vibe to it that I quite enjoyed. But it's not one of those like super sweet, not like twisted peppermint or anything like that. There is something I found really lovely about the texture of this fragrance. It does have that nice sort of kind of fluffy, sort of rounded, marshmallowy vibe to it that I really enjoyed, and the mintiness comes across. There's quite a bit of vanilla. You get some of that sugary, fluffy marshmallow stuff happening, and it's a fun fragrance. I actually really enjoyed burning this one, and I don't remember ever experiencing this one before. I know that I've been buying from Bath & Body Works since this this candle has come out, but it's one that was kind of lost in memory for me, and so it almost felt like it was something new for me this year, and so I kind of enjoyed it, if for anything, just because it was kind of new to me. However, this one just was not a powerhouse either. I think that this did a little bit better than Smoked Vanilla and Vanilla Snowflake did. I'd say that this was detectable in my more open space, so I'd give it a 5. Putting it in the bedroom, it was definitely getting up to a 6, and this one was a really beautiful burn, actually. I burned it all the way down till there was hardly anything left in there, and it was a nice, clean, even burn. It was never dudding out or giving me any issues that way. I really enjoyed this, actually. I think I picked up another one of these. I'm not certain yet if I'm gonna keep it or give it away. I think this is another one that I might like to try out, like under a heat lamp, like maybe in my kitchen under the candle lamp, and see if I get more out of it. Okay, now I've got some good news for you folks, because this is one of the best versions of Vanilla Birch that I have ever burned. I have got no notes on this candle. I actually really, really liked the packaging on this one. I love the simplicity of it. I love the use of color. I love this lid, even though she's really dirty now. And if you see inside that text box there was sort of a textured kind of pattern in there that gives it almost sort of an iridescent vibe when you're looking at it in person. I just thought that this candle was so sharp looking, but the real thing that surprised me about the presentation on this one was the inside of the candle, and that sort of outdoorsy kind of foresty pattern all around the inside of the candle here. And I will put up some videos of what this candle looked like when it was burning. However, I was going through the sort of footage that I took of this candle, and even seeing it on video and in photos, it doesn't do it justice. This candle just looked stunning when it was burning, because there was a sheerness to this label. And so when it was burning, the patterns on the inside, you could see them projecting to the outside of the label. And so when this was burning, it looked like this texture and these patterns on the inside were on the outside of the label. And I just thought that was like a really sort of nifty design surprise. I thought this candle just looked fantastic when it was burning. This is one thing that if I see at semi-annual sale, this Vanilla Birch candle, I will be purchasing many, many, many of them. Like I said, one of the best versions of Vanilla Birch that I've ever burned. The scent notes on Vanilla Birch, we'll talk about the fragrance for a second here. The scent notes are white birch, Madagascar vanilla, and warm sandalwood. And I absolutely love this fragrance. This is another one of my, this might be in my top 5 or at least top 10 favorite fragrances from Bath & Body Works. There's something very smooth and woodsy about it, but it also has a very kind of strong powdery component. And for whatever reason, in this case, that powdery component actually really works for me. And I don't usually love like baby powder fragrances or like super like musky, like body care powdery types of fragrances. But with Vanilla Birch, it really works. There's like this creaminess in the woodsy note as well. And the way that kind of juxtaposes with the powderiness that's also in there, and then a really kind of lovely, like bright vanilla bean note running through the whole thing is just absolutely lovely. I'll give a little bit of a word of warning though. There was somebody who bought this candle based off of my recommendation, and then said to me in the comment section they didn't love it as much as they thought that they were going to love it, because it really was just quite powdery. And so now whenever I talk about this candle, I do try to emphasize the fact that there is a very powdery component to it, but it's also got this lovely, like smooth, woodsy, like outdoorsy vibe as well. I just love it. I really, really do. And I think that this is one of the best versions of Vanilla Birch that has come out in a long time because this one was strong. So here is one example of a candle that I actually think has become stronger. There's another version of Vanilla Birch that I really loved that also came in beautiful packaging that looked like this. And I purchased quite a few of those when it came out. In fact, I think I still have a couple in the candle closet somewhere. And that candle was fantastic, but I don't think that the strength and throw was as good as it was on this version. In my more open space, I'd say that this was easily a 6, maybe even a 6.5 for strength and throw. Definitely the strongest version of Vanilla Birch that I can think of in recent memory. I did have it in the bedroom for a little while, in which case it was kind of a powerhouse. I'd say in the bedroom it was like a 7.5. Really, really great strength and throw on this version of the candle. I wish I had more. I have not seen it for a minute, but I have also only been going to a couple specific locations lately. If I happen to see this for semi-annual sale, I am going to be getting so many of them because this is just the best version of Vanilla Birch that I think we've had in a really, really long time. And it had the thin core wicks on it. It burned great. Look how clean that wax still is down there. You know, it was never dudding out or giving me itty bitty wicks and teeny tiny flames. It was a really good smooth burn from beginning to end. My one word of warning though, with those thin core wicks, you do need to limit the burn times. I'd say the longest I could really let this burn for was probably 2 hours, and there would be like huge mushroom tops on the wicks and really deep wax pools. So yeah, definitely limit the burn times on here, but man, this was a good one. This was a really, really good candle all around, like 10 out of 10, no notes. And I think that for this fragrance, the strength and throw is just perfect. For this fragrance in particular, I don't think I'd necessarily want it to be more than like a 6 or a 6.5 in a more open space, a 7, a 7.5 in the bedroom. I wouldn't actually want it to be more than this. So this candle was just chef's kiss. I really, really hope that I find more in my hunting somewhere. I also finished up this cereal milk soft serve from the milk jar collection that Bath & Body Works did. These candles have been out for a long time now. I don't know, my sense of time is so warped. Like, it feels like these just came out like yesterday, but they've been around for a really long time. I like the packaging on these milk jar candles. I think they all looked, you know, kind of fun and playful and colorful. My only qualm is I think it would have been nice if this label wrapped all the way around, so you sort of had the cornflakes and the sort of colorful bits and pieces kind of wrapped around the entire jar. I think that would have been nice. But otherwise, I thought this candle looked really good. And it's interesting, I'm only noticing now that these are cornflakes. You know, they definitely look like cornflakes, and cornflakes is absolutely the like cereal note that I pick up on in this fragrance. The scent notes are soft ice cream, golden cornflakes, and frosted sugar. I actually ended up really loving this fragrance. It's really, really soft and creamy. It also has this kind of odd, almost like a fuzzy texture to it in a way. It's got a lactonic note in there without it being sour. And you do pick up on like this sort of crunchy and starchy kind of cornflake note in there as well. However, it's definitely sweeter than a bowl of cornflakes and milk would be. This is vanilla ice cream and cornflakes. It's vanilla ice cream and cornflakes. It's kind of an odd concept, but for me, this fragrance actually really worked. And also, when I was first smelling this candle, I thought it was gonna be really kind of weak when it was burning. It was quite a bit stronger than I thought it was gonna be. In fact, I think that this candle, the cereal milk soft serve, I think this was a stronger candle than that birthday cake candle was. I thought that this was a much more noticeable fragrance and a pretty good burn too. I'd say that the strength and throw on this in my more open space was probably getting to like a 5.5, a 6. I'd say I'd give it a 6 in the more open space. I never put this in the bedroom. I'd imagine that in there it would be giving me like a 6.5 or a 7, but it stayed in my more open area. A 6 for me is perfectly acceptable these days, and it did have a really nice presence to it. It's kind of odd. Like, there is something that was almost kind of warm about this fragrance, even though it's supposed to be, I don't know, ice cream and cornflakes. Kind of an odd one, but odd in the way that I like. It was like odd but pleasant. And decent strength and throw. I would say you can actually tell the wax did get a little bit dirtier than it did on some of these other candles here. You know, just looking at these quickly, I did notice a little bit more discoloration on the wax at the very end there, but it really wasn't like that when it was burning. Overall, it was a really nice clean burn from beginning to end. However, this definitely gave me a bit of dudding out. After the halfway point, there was definitely a bit of dudding out that happened. What I usually do is I just let it keep burning and eventually they fix themselves. And that's exactly what happened here. Yeah, I'm actually a little bit surprised at how much I ended up liking this cereal milk soft serve. And that this is another one I think that I might, you know, grab another during semi-annual sale if I see it out there. Okay. Also, Snowflakes and Cashmere. Ooh, I love Snowflakes and Cashmere. This is a good one. I really, really like this fragrance. I thought that the packaging on this collection was okay. Not great. I actually finished up quite a few Snowflakes and Cashmere this winter so far. I also finished up one from the White Barn Core line. I finished up one that came out last year, and I think that this one that came out last year is actually the prettiest. And this one also looked the prettiest when it was burning as well. It just created like this really lovely, glowing sort of scenic wraparound picture when it was burning. This was a really, really lovely candle. And I also finished up burning a single wick. I believe this is the single wick from last year. Yeah. Or actually, this one came out in 2023, or it was poured in 2023. Well, as you can tell, I love Snowflakes and Cashmere. I always wish that the candle was a little bit stronger, but it does okay. And yes, some of these were stronger than others. We'll get into that as well. The scent notes on this one are vanilla cashmere cream, caramel woods, and frosted clementine. And I've got to say, I really don't think I've ever picked up on the clementine note in here. Like a citrusy sort of component, like a sweet citrusy component. I really don't think that I've ever picked up on that in this candle. It's a very like cozy, soft, lush, linen-y vanilla fragrance. It's got a really lovely kind of fuzzy texture to it. I love Snowflakes and Cashmere. There is just a teeny hint of woodsiness in there and a little bit of caramel as well. It's got a really lovely kind of soft sweetness to it that I appreciate, because it's not sweet in like your typical kind of caramel or vanilla way. It's got this kind of soft, fuzzy, cashmere-y sweetness to it that I really, really like, and I actually think is quite unique. And it's got that like wintry vibe to it, but at the same time, it's also got like that sort of warm and cozy vibe. You know, I just think that this is a fabulous, fabulous fragrance. I mean, I did burn 4 candles this year of Snowflakes and Cashmere. Like I said, I think this one had the nicest packaging and the coolest lid as well. However, when it comes to performance and strength and throw, I've got to say that this most recent version was actually the best one for me. And so, we've got some candles here that I think are a little bit weaker this year than they were in years past, but we've also got some candles that I think they upped the fragrance on a little bit. Vanilla Birch, and also Snowflakes and Cashmere. I think that this particular version was the best one. And that came as a surprise to me because it had colored wax on it and thicker wicks. I would have thought thought that this white barn version was going to do better because it had plain white wax and like the thin core wicks on it. But as you can see, this version actually got kind of dirty at the end, and it actually started getting dirty probably around the halfway point. Maybe I let it burn a little bit longer than I should have, but I never let it burn for more than like 3 hours. You know what I mean? This version from last year, I think, looked the prettiest, but it was the weakest, all right? This one was weaker. I think that these two versions did a little bit better, with this one ultimately doing the best because it was just a better burn. It was a really good, nice, clean, and consistent burn from top to bottom. I didn't need to limit the burn times on it the same way that I needed to with the white barn version. It never dudded out. It never gave me teeny tiny wicks or itty bitty flames. I probably let it burn a little bit longer than I should have at the end there. And so that's why you see just a little bit of swirl of discoloration, but this was colored wax. And so it does actually look very similar to how it did when it was first purchased. Now, yeah, I'd say that this version was probably getting almost to like a 6 in my more open space, maybe a 5.5. I'd say that some of the better burns on it, though, some of the really good burns were giving me a 6 in my more open space, and in the bedroom, it was easily giving me like a 6.5. Not getting up quite to a 7, but a 6.5. So I really thought that this was the strongest version of Snowflakes and Cashmere that we've had so far. I remember the first time it came out in packaging that looked like this. It came out in this collection that also had winter white woods in it. And I would say that that version was the weakest version. And so they've been getting it a little bit stronger every time it's come out. Maybe. I'd say that this version was like a 4 in my more open space and a 5 in the bedroom. And I'd say that this version was probably like a 5 in my more open space and like a 5.5 in the bedroom. So this one was definitely the winner, and that's good news because this is the version that we're most likely to see, I think, during semi-annual sale. Well, you know what, actually, this version might sell out sooner than the white barn version does, so it's hard to say. But honestly, I thought that both of this year's versions were pretty decent, to be honest with you. The single wick candle, I put it in the bathroom for a little while in a hurricane, and I'd say that it was getting up to like maybe a 5 in there. Like the small bathroom in a hurricane giving me a 5. It burned okay. I don't have any complaints about how it burned. I mean, I burned it all the way down till it looks like this one extinguished itself as well. You know, there was a fair bit of dragging around this one. I did notice it took quite a bit of time to pool out, even in a hurricane, which should help kind of expedite the pooling out process. This one took quite a while to get going, but you know, it did all right. I really love Snowflakes and Cashmere, as you can obviously tell. It's a really, really good one. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful fragrance. I hope that they keep bringing it back every year, and I hope that they keep making it a little bit stronger every year. I'd be really interested to know if anyone else has burned multiple versions of Snowflakes and Cashmere. Please let me know in the comments below if you agree with me or if you think I'm going crazy, but I really think that that candle, I feel like they've improved it a little bit every time that it's come out, which is a really, really nice thing to be able to say. All right, I also finished up Under the Christmas Tree from Bath and Body Works, and I thought that this version looked all right. This whole collection, it wasn't really my favorite packaging. Something about the text like rectangle in the middle there is just kind of like old-timey and doesn't have much pop to it. One thing that I will say I ended up liking about this collection was the sort of, the wraparound label has kind of a gloss glossy, almost glassy looking finish to it that I thought was really quite nice. And I also finished burning this beautiful version. When did this one come out? This one came out in 2023. This I thought was a really, really beautiful version of Under the Christmas Tree. You know, not a huge fan of the text rectangle in the middle there, but I love the shade of green, and the lid on this one was really, really gorgeous. Really pretty lid. And there was a beautiful like dark green wax on this version. And this new one that we got last year, it had kind of a cute lid, but it just had really boring wax on there, which did get quite a bit discolored. I love Under the Christmas Tree. When it comes to the sort of Christmas standards from Bath & Body Works, you know, I feel like we always get holiday, 'tis the season, Under the Christmas Tree. This one's my favorite. The scent notes on here are fir balsam, juniper berries, vanilla eggnog, and sage leaves. Oh, I just love this one. You know, I love it. It's very, you know, it really is very much like full-blown Christmas tree, but it's balanced out so nicely. There's a little bit of extra herbaceousness from that sage note that I really appreciate, and then it is smoothed out just beautifully with that like vanilla eggnog note. And, you know, it doesn't really give me full-blown eggnog vibes. You know, I don't really get much of that sort of lactonic, kind of super duper creamy kind of vibe that you get from eggnog, but there is a really nice like smooth sweetness to it. Reminds me just a little bit of vanilla balsam from Bath & Body Works, but vanilla balsam I think is a much more sort of linear and simple fragrance. It really is just those two things, like vanilla and balsam, whereas this one has quite a little bit more going on with the juniper and the sage. There's just a little bit more of a sort of herbaceous, outdoorsy component to it that I really love. And then the way that that is juxtaposed with this sort of smooth, like vanilla fragrance is just absolutely lovely. I love Under the Christmas Tree. I wasn't thrilled with the way that this year's version performed, though, to be honest with you. It was definitely giving me some dudding out situations. In fact, I'd say the entire last half of this candle was just dudding out, you know? And I think I let this candle burn for like 5 hours at one point, when it was just giving me itty bitty wicks and teeny tiny flames, and it never really fixed itself. And so then my last resort is to blow it out and remove a little bit of wax before lighting it again next time. And so that's what I did. And then when I did light it again the next time, it did okay for about an hour and then just completely like dudded out again, to the point where I've actually still got, you know, I probably could have burned it one more time, but I was just so over it because it also started to get kind of discolored, you know, because I let it burn for, you know, 5 or 6 hours at one point, hoping that it would fix itself. It definitely started to get a little bit discolored. I don't think that it ever really affected the fragrance though. Yeah, I don't think it ever really affected the fragrance, but it was definitely a frustrating one. I'd say that this was probably a 6 in my more open space. Yeah, I'd give it a good 6. I never burned this in the bedroom or anywhere else. You know, a 6 in my more open space is more acceptable. But this one from 2023 did considerably better. I'd say that this was getting to a 7 in my more open space for sure. Easily getting up to a 7. This was really noticeably stronger, folks. And even now, and this isn't a fair comparison to make now that they've both been burned, but even now, I'm getting more oomph out of this one than I am this one. I really, really am. And I love the beautiful wax. I mean, look at how those wicks are still like standing up nice and tall. You know what? I could almost get I could almost get one more burn out of this candle, but I mean, the wicks are standing up nice and tall. The wax is still that really lovely, clean, like green color. And look at the wicks on this one, just studded out to nothing with that murkiness and swirliness. Yeah, this year's version of Under the Christmas Tree was just not great, which was kind of disappointing, but I really enjoyed burning this one. Oh, I think I have one more of these left in my stash. I think that during Candle Day, the year that this candle was on the shelves, I got like 3 or 4 of this one. And I have no regrets about that. I think I've got one more left for last year that I'm looking forward to. All right, another Bath & Body Works candle to talk about. This is Brioche French Toast. And this came out for Candle Day a year or two ago. I think that they called this collection like the Murano collection because of the pattern on here. And this candle looked really lovely when it was burning. We had a cream like White Barn lid on this one. So this came out on Candle Day 2023. So not last year, but the year before. Yeah, that makes sense. Man, this candle, this fragrance is so rich. The scent notes on Brioche French Toast are fluffy brioche toast, rich maple syrup, a dollop of butter sprinkled with cinnamon. And yeah, I mean, I pick up on all of that. Maple syrup, butter, cinnamon. And usually those are not fragrance notes that I'm really drawn to, you know, cinnamon, maple. Like, this isn't a candle that I really thought I was gonna love, but I actually ended up really liking it, and I purchased quite a few. This is the last one. I purchased quite a few candles from this collection. There was also, and I've got some of them in the candle closet that I'm burning right now. I'm also burning the Red Hot Cocoa right now, or was it Hot Pink Cocoa? Something like that. And the white chocolate macadamia nut is also really good. Yeah, this candle is very rich. There is a fair bit of cinnamon in there, but it's not like that super sharp, bright, like red hot cinnamon note. It's actually kind of like a nice, sort of smooth and almost powdery cinnamon note, and a considerable amount of maple syrup, which I enjoy. Like, quite a bit of maple syrup in here. And also, like, yeah, a very like toasty, starchy, you know, vibe in there. Like, you really smell bread in this candle as well. It's actually quite a sort of deep and rich fragrance. It's actually quite low in the fragrance register. Like, the highest note in here is that sort of cinnamon note, but even that cinnamon note isn't like I just said, one of those really bright red hot cinnamon notes. Even the cinnamon note, while it sits on top of this fragrance, it's a little bit lower and a little bit deeper, and the maple syrup kind of has this smoothness to it. Yeah, really good. I really, really enjoyed this fragrance. This candle also really performed like a champ. It did so well. I burned it all the way down until I had to extinguish it because the whole candle had liquefied and those wicks started to drift outwards quite a little bit. And so it was definitely time to call it a day at that point. But look at how clean and nice that wax looks. The wicks are still pointing up a little bit. It was a really good performer from beginning to end. It never dudded out. It never gave me itty bitty wicks or teeny tiny flames. I'd say that this was easily a 7 in my more open space. And also this isn't a candle that I would want in the bedroom or the bathroom. It never went in there. It actually might be a little bit strong for me for this particular fragrance to have had it in the bedroom. I think would have been a bit much. In my more open space, it was easily hitting a 7, maybe even a 7.5. Just a really good burn, really strong candle, a really, really rich fragrance. Definitely not like one of my favorites. Like, I'm not heartbroken that this is the last one that I had in my collection, but I did really enjoy it because it just had a real like personality and a presence to it. And yeah, that was a good one. I also finished up a Wildberry and Ube from Bath & Body Works. When did this one come out? This one was 2023. Yeah, Wildberry and Ube. This was a really, really interesting one, and I really loved it. It it came out in the neutrals line. Hey, speaking of the neutrals line, you guys notice we didn't get any new neutrals lines candles for Candle Day this year? I mean, we got like Book Loft, but usually I feel like for Candle Day the last couple of years we've had a pretty big collection come out of like 4 or 5 new like neutrals candles. I would have liked to have seen Wildberry and Ube again. The scent notes on it are fresh wild berries, purple ube, and creamy vanilla. And what I like about this is that this is like a fairly sweet, like berry gourmand fragrance, but it's not like a bakery fragrance. I don't tend to love like berry bakery fragrances all that much. And so for me, this was like kind of a perfect like wild berry fragrance that definitely had like kind of a sweet, almost a little bit starchy, like that ube. It gives it a little bit of a starchy vibe, but it's not like full blown bakery with a little bit of cinnamon or like brown sugar or anything in there. It's like, it's actually a very pure, like natural smelling fragrance to me. I don't think that Bath & Body Works does the best job with like fruit fragrances or berry fragrances. If you watch my channel a lot, you've probably noticed that not a lot of like fruity or berry fragrances pop up from Bath & Body Works. I just don't think that they do them all that well, but this one is fantastic. The wild berry note is so bright and like natural smelling, and it's balanced out with this sort of interesting kind of like starchy like ube note. And I can't say that I really know what ube smells like. I've had ube bubble teas before, but I don't think I've ever eaten like straight up ube, right? And so I really like this. I'd say that the wild berry is like, I feel like I'm picking up on blackberry and blueberry mostly, you know, kind of that granulated sort of like seed, like wild berry texture, but also a little bit of like a smoothness from like a blueberry. Really, really lovely. There's like no fragrance left in this wax at all. I really, really like this one. There's also some vanilla in here that's sort of smoothing the fragrance out a little bit. It's just a lovely one from top to bottom. You've got the sort of brightness of the berries, the smoothness of the vanilla, and this really kind of interesting component from the ube, kind of like a little bit of a sort of textured starchiness. Yeah, really interesting. I really wish this candle would come back because it's very rare that I find a wild berry type of fragrance from Bath & Body Works that I like this much. And I have burned this candle like regularly before. I can't remember off the top of my head how it did when it was burning, but it really performed under the candle lamp in my kitchen. I'd say that the first couple of times that I put it on, and I do use a pretty strong candle lamp with like a 50-watt bulb, and I always have that bulb just an inch above the wax. I like for my candle lamp to be able to liquefy an entire candle. I'd say that the first like 3 or 4 times that I was melting this, it was easily getting to like a 7.5 or an 8 for strength and throw in my kitchen. Like very, very, very noticeable. And then of course, when you're melting a whole candle, the subsequent burns get a little bit weaker and weaker, but I feel like I got a lot out of this one. It was under that candle lamp for over a week probably. And it wasn't until it had been under there for quite a long time that I noticed the fragrance really significantly starting to dip. And then the last stop that a candle usually makes when I'm melting it is in the candle crock. And when I put it in the candle crock, I got another like big burst of fragrance out of it for a little while, and then it quickly like dissipated to nothing. Overall, I was really happy with the amount of fragrance and the longevity that this candle had when it was melting, and I would love to see this one come back. I really would, because yeah, like I said, it's a berry fragrance from Bath & Body Works that I really ended up liking. Yeah, I really pick up on blackberry and blueberry in here, and maybe a little bit of raspberry as well. It's just really bright and lovely, but so nicely balanced. Ooh, I liked Wildberry and Ube, you guys. That was a good one. Okay, I also finished up some stuff from Goose Creek and something from Village Candles, so we're gonna keep going here, folks. Okay, this Winter Splendor candle. Oh my goodness, this candle was fantastic. I absolutely love this like photographic pine cone wraparound on here. Just really, really lovely. And this candle looked gorgeous when it was burning. A bit of a boring lid, but man, they knocked it out of the park with this wraparound. Just so, so lovely. I hadn't burned this candle before. This was a candle that came recommended to me by so many people. I actually did a little search of my comment section before I started filming this video. This is one of the most recommended candles that you guys have ever told me about in my comment section. I heard from Shannon, from Lucy, Nicole, Robin, Michelle at Crazy for Candles, Betsy, hey Betsy Bab, Taylor from Candle Coven, Summer from Fragrance Junkie, all recommended this candle to me and told me it was one I had to try this year. You girls are spot on. This was fantastic. The scent notes on here are winter cedar, cinnamon bark, icy peppermint, and smoky firewood. Oh my goodness. I think that one of the easiest comparisons to make for Winter Splendor would probably be Winter from Bath & Body Works. The scent notes on Winter are white woods, pine needles, sparkling clementine, and spiced clove. That's the difference. There is just a little bit of a touch of citrus in Winter from BBW, whereas Winter Splendor has a bit of a cinnamon note in there as opposed to that citrusy note. That's the difference here. It's really, really lovely. And once again, it's not a cinnamon note that bothers me. I'd say that first and foremost, this is like a smoky and woodsy fragrance, but it's so nicely balanced out with that peppermint and then just a little whisper of cinnamon. You know, it does have those sort of components to it that might add up to kind of one of those boring like Christmas spice potpourri type of fragrances, but this is so well executed that I just thought it was absolutely fabulous. I love this sort of deep, smoky, rich woodsiness in here, but also that cedar note gives it a little bit of a sharpness as well, but then it's smoothed out. There's a little bit of like a peppermint. The minty note in here though is actually quite smooth as opposed to being sharp, and same with the cinnamon. It's not like a bright red hot cinnamon. It's almost more of like a soft and powdery cinnamon note, and the way that it's balanced and the nuance of this fragrance, it's one of those fragrances that, quite frankly, I would expect from a little bit more of a bougie candle company. Like, this smells a lot to me like something you might get from Voluspa or from Illume perhaps, because it's just so perfectly done. I was really, really impressed with it. And on top of that, this candle burned absolutely beautifully and had fantastic strength and throw. I burned it all the way down until the whole candle had liquefied. A really, really nice clean burn on there for a Goose Creek candle. I did let this last burn go off a little bit longer than I should have, at which point one of the wicks started acting up, and you can see I ended up with a considerable amount of a soot stain right over there. However, that really was my fault. I let that last burn go off way longer than I should have, and I actually really kind of effed it up. I could have extinguished this candle sooner and then had one last really good burn out of it, but I just kind of let it go too long, and then I looked over it. I probably let this go for like 3 hours, and with Goose Creek, I have like a 2-hour rule. Like, I never let a Goose Creek candle burn for longer than 2 hours, because you do tend to often end up with problems like that if you do. However, this is absolutely going to be a repurchase for me. I can't recommend this candle enough. Oh, it's so good. And if you do like Winter from Bath & Body Works, but yeah, also in Winter you pick up on, there's a clove note in here. This there's a little bit more of a pungency to this candle, both from that clove and also the way that it sort of mixes with like a citrusy note. I almost feel like Winter Splendor is a little bit more of a palatable, better executed version of winter in some way. And that is saying a lot because I love winter. This is one of my absolute favorite like Christmas wintertime candles from Bath and Body Works. But you know what? I think I like Winter Splendor even more. I really do. This is just perfect. Absolutely lovely. Yeah, this was a fantastic candle. Thank you so much to everybody that recommended it to me. You are all spot on. If you haven't tried Winter Splendor from Goose Creek and you like candles that are sort of in this vein, I just can't recommend that one enough. It was absolutely fantastic. One of my favorite candles that I have burned this winter so far, like by quite a considerable amount, honestly. Okay, and I also finished up a vanilla snowman from Goose Creek. This is a really, really fun one. I think that the packaging on this is okay. It's really not my style, but it's kind of fun, playful, colorful packaging. I'm not mad at it by any means. We had a white lid on this one. I really like vanilla snowman. I burned this for the first time last year, and so this was totally a repurchase for me. Lots of vanilla stuff in the weekly wax wrap up today. The scent notes on this are fluffy marshmallows, vanilla sugar, and cocoa powder. And it's another one of those vanilla fragrances that also kind of has that nice kind of outdoorsy kind of fragrance component to it somehow. Like it's got kind of a bright vibe to it, even though it's not a super like highly pitched fragrance. I'd say it's kind of like medium in range. I mean, first and foremost, this is absolutely a vanilla candle. I'd say that it's kind of like a vanilla and chocolate candle. However, it's not like a rich like milk chocolate. It's not like a rich chocolate or a dark chocolate. What does it say? It says cocoa powder. And that totally makes sense because it feels like it's like vanilla and marshmallows with then like a whisper or like a dusting of like cocoa powder on it, you know? It's got kind of a really interesting texture to it because there's a little bit of dryness in there, but it's also very rich and smooth and fluffy and creamy, but it's got this sort of outdoorsy vibe to it. I feel like that cocoa powder note, like the powderiness of it, kind of gives it a little bit of like an outdoorsy vibe. The way that vanilla birch, that powderiness kind of evokes like an outdoors feeling. I'd say the same thing about vanilla snowman. It's really a lovely, smooth vanilla fragrance with a bit of chocolate in there. And this candle performed really well. I burned it all the way down to the bottom here. I will say that this started to get a little bit discolored at the 1/3 mark. As you can obviously see with the wax in there, the discoloration did start, at the 1/3 mark before the whole thing had liquefied. I noticed that it was getting a little bit swirly and murky. I've still got about this much left on it, but I just called it a day at that point because otherwise it was a really nice clean burn. Like it wasn't sooting or giving me any big issues like that. And the strength and throw on this was fabulous. I always say that Goose Creek does a really good job with their vanilla fragrances. I don't know how they do it, but I'd say that Goose Creek has the strongest vanilla candles that you can really get out there right now. The strength and throw on this was easily a 7 in my more open space. I'd say like a 6.5 or a 7, easily a 6.5. The deeper burns on it were definitely getting up to a 7. I did have it in the bedroom for a little while and it was a very solid 8 in there. And it was not an 8 that I found too like strong or abrasive. It was actually just a really lovely like soft vanilla presence, but it was quite strong in terms of strength and throw. Like definitely an 8 in the bedroom. Very, very noticeable. No matter what space this candle was in, I was really happy with how it performed. It is a repurchase for me and I'm certain that I'll be getting another one next year. Also from Goose Creek, I finished up Blankets and Snowflakes. I think that this was the most beautiful collection that Goose Creek put out in the wintertime. It is gorgeous. It's got, the wraparound label has that sort of glossy, almost glassy looking finish to it. And it just looked stunning when it was burning. The way that it glowed, and we've got these sort of silver flecks of snow kind of throughout the entire wraparound. This is really the epitome of like candle packaging that I like. Just super simple and lovely and simplistic. And Blankets and Snowflakes, this was a really good one. The scent notes on here are cozy blankets, falling snow, warm spices, and sparkling vanilla. I can't say I'm really picking up that much on warm spices. I guess I'd probably associate like a warm spice as being like some nutmeg or some cinnamon, you know, something like that. And I'm not really picking up on that. It's kind of a smooth fragrance, you know, and it's not really that far off from Snowflakes and Cashmere. Snowflakes and Cashmere has a little bit of a sharper kind of sweetness to it. It's a little bit sweeter than this is. This has a little bit more of that like linen, like cozy cashmere vibe to it, and a considerable amount of vanilla. Like I said though, I'm not picking up on the warm spices in here. It's actually like a very, very smooth and like soft fragrance. It's fairly low in range as well, which I really appreciate. I don't pick up on any sort of a spice note taking it into a bit of a higher register. It's really just a lovely like cashmere, linen, vanilla fragrance. It's absolutely lovely. There's also something about it that smells really quite fresh. You know, I don't want to say bright because it is kind of like lower in the fragrance register for me, but there's also a little bit of a smooth, bright quality to it that I really appreciate. However, also something kind of warm and cozy as well, you know, and it's that juxtaposition, I think, that really makes for a well-balanced fragrance. And I'd say that this is just really lovely balanced and has a lovely, lovely nuance to it. And it was really nice and strong. I'd say that this was easily a 7 in my more open space, you know, maybe even a 7.5. And considering that it's such a soft, like blankety, cozy fragrance, I was really impressed with how strong it was. I did put it in the bedroom for a little while. It was easily getting up to an 8 in there. So yeah, I have really no complaints at all about Blankets and Snowflakes. It never dudded out, never gave me itty bitty wicks or teeny tiny flames. In fact, none of these Goose Creek candles suffered from that. Not the way that Bath & Body Works seem to be suffering quite frequently for me these days. Goose Creek, usually I have the opposite problem. They're burning a little bit too fast and too hot and too strong, so you have to limit your burn times and trim those wicks down to little nubs. I mean, every time I burn a Goose Creek candle, I trim the wick until the point that it's almost level with the wax. And then at the very end there, I mean, look at how much wick is still like popping out of the top there. I really appreciate that I don't have to, you know, deal with dudding out on Goose Creek candles very often, but it's always a trade-off, right? It's always a trade-off. Like I'd say that the Bath & Body Works candles, at least you can let them burn for a little bit longer. Sometimes let them burn for 5 or 6 hours because they're dudding out so bad. With Goose Creek, you have the opposite problem. You have to limit your burn times or else it's just a huge, deep, even wax pool that starts sooting, right? Oh, this one was so fantastic. I also finished off some wax melts from Goose Creek, and I've been really getting into Goose Creek wax melts lately. I placed a huge Goose Creek order. They just had a big sale on, just like, you know, Bath & Body Works did for Candle Day. The Goose Creek sale, though, has lasted longer, and it actually got cheaper, like the weekend after Candle Day. So I've got a big Goose Creek order coming my way with a whole bunch of wax melts so that I can try out some of the fragrances that I'm not sure if I'm gonna want in like a full-blown like 3-wick format yet. Their wax melts do incredibly well. If you haven't tried a Goose Creek wax melt yet and you love a wax melt, I can't really think of any complaints when it comes to their wax melts because, you know, you don't have to deal with limiting burn times or any of that stuff. You just throw it under a candle lamp and it does so well. Well, that's how I melt my wax melts. As you can see here, this is like my little wax melt situation. I just put them in an emptied out 3-wick candle vessel and put them underneath a heat lamp. This one is butter cookie. Yeah, butter cookie. This was a nice one, actually. I enjoyed butter cookie. We've got scent notes on here, I think. Let's see here. You know, my least favorite thing in the world is like opening up wax melt sleeves because I don't have any nails on me. The scent notes for butter cookie are warm butter cookie, vanilla bean, and toasted sugar. And oh, this is nice. This isn't anything like life-changing by any means, but it's a really nicely done cookie fragrance. It is very buttery. It's got a very, very smooth buttery component to it without it being like a sour or lactonic kind of vibe at all. It's just a very, very smooth buttery cookie. A considerable amount of that kind of flour, sort of like starchiness vibe to it. And it's got a really nice smoothness to it. Unlike a fragrance that you might get that was like a sugar cookie or something, you know, like that sort of granular sweetness. This is a really, really like smooth, buttery sweetness. And it's a really good one. It doesn't smell plasticky. Like, you know, it reminds me just a little bit of cookie butter truffle from Bath and Body Works, except that cookie butter truffle candle I just find so plasticky, kind of like Mary Cookie. I'd say that this is much nicer than both Mary Cookie and cookie butter truffle. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, it's making me hungry for my mother's Christmas baking. And this wax melt performed really well too. I had it under the candle lamp. I probably melted this for like 8 hours at a time, like 4, 5, 6 times. I'd say that the first couple melts on it easily got up to like a 7 in my kitchen, maybe a 7.5. And then of course it gets a little bit weaker, but yeah, there's like nothing left in there. I got all the fragrance out of this one, and you know, I never really had like a melt on it where I was like, oh, all of a sudden it just stops. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm happy with the way that Goose Creek wax melts perform. They are strong, really, really strong. I finished off another one actually from Goose Creek. This one was Pistachio Biscotti. Oh, that's right. Yeah, there's not much left in there. This Pistachio Biscotti was good. Very, very, very rich. The scent notes on here are toasted pistachio, crunchy biscotti, and vanilla drizzle. You know why I like this so much? It is definitely like a bakery fragrance, you know, it's definitely got that starchy like bakery vibe to it. But the first and foremost fragrance for me in here is that pistachio. It is so nutty. Oh my goodness. This smells, just smelling this like plastic container here, this sleeve is so freaking strong. Like, yeah, I got all of the scent out of it. Holy smokes. It's really, really nice. It does have like a bit of a vanilla note in the base of it, and definitely a considerable amount of like, you know, that biscotti, like kind of crunchy, like cookie vibe to it. But more than anything, it's a very, very nutty, like pistachio fragrance. You know, I feel like there might be a little bit of like an icing in there. Yeah, it says vanilla drizzle. It does come across as like a vanilla drizzle more than it does sort of like a light and bright like vanilla bean situation. Very, very bakery gourmand fragrance here, but it's that nuttiness that I just really, really enjoyed. And the nuttiness was such a strong component of when it was melting. It was so strong. I'd say that this was easily like an 8 or an 8.5 for strength and throw. It was almost a little bit too much. Yeah, the first time that I melted it, I'd say it was like an 8.5, and I kind of just let it go. You know, I didn't mind. It was definitely like drifting out of my kitchen. But then, you know, the subsequent melts, I felt like the subsequent melts, it kind of sat around like a 7 or a 7.5 for quite a while, which was just perfect for me. I really, really enjoyed this one, actually, more than I thought that I would. And I do think I'd consider buying the candle for this, just because I love a pistachio. I love the pistachio fragrance in here. I like this one more than I like the butter cookie. This one is just a little bit more rich and complex and like interesting and so potent. Man, this candle, if I do get this in a candle, I feel like that's gonna be a really, really strong candle for the more open living space. Okay, I also finished up something from Village, and this was just fabulous as well. I really got through some fantastic candles the last couple of weeks. I had never tried a 3-wick candle from Village before, but this one was really good. This is spiced tobac and honey. And like I said, the first time that I tried a 3-wick from them, I mean, look at that, you guys. I burned this candle down till there was absolutely nothing left on there. I got the scent notes off of the website. We've got a little bit of a scent story here. It says, like the sweet smell of a cigar, this intoxicating fragrance fills the air with earthy tobacco leaves, spiced peppercorn, and sweet spun honey. The grounding notes of deep mahogany, fresh bergamot, and coconut milk create a welcoming warmth. This full-bodied fragrance pairs perfectly with your favorite glass of whiskey. So the scent notes broken down are bergamot, dark mahogany, tobacco leaves, coconut milk, sweet spun honey, and peppercorn. There's a couple notes there that I don't think I'm really picking up on. Like the bergamot, I don't think I'm getting like much of a zestiness or like a citrusy component in here at all. I'd say first and foremost, it's like tobacco and honey, which makes sense, right? It's called spiced tobacco and honey. And yeah, the honey note in here is lovely. It's got that really lovely kind of sweet, kind of glowing sweetness to it. And also a little bit of smokiness. I think the level of sweetness in here is just perfect. It's like kind of a medium to low ranging, kind of like sticky sweetness, but not like a dark sweetness. I feel like there might be a little bit of amber in here, and it's kind of like a light amber, not like a dark, sticky, like resinous amber. It's got a really, really lovely smoothness to it. However, there is also a considerable amount of like tobacco in there and a little bit of leafiness and woodsiness as well. I can't say that I'm picking up on the bergamot or the coconut milk. There's also a coconut milk note here, but there is a little bit of pepperiness, which is just fantastic. Like, yeah, honey, tobacco, and pepper. Just lovely. It's so rare for me to find a honey fragrance or a honey candle that I like, so I really enjoyed this one a lot. And this is kind of an odd one from Village Candle. It's the Gentleman's Collection. They have a whole bunch of like sort of 3 wicks out, you know, called the Gentleman's Collection with kind of neutral colors on them. And I was really, really impressed with this fragrance. I just thought it was fantastic. I burned this all the way down. I burned this way longer than I should have. As you can see, like all of the wicks really drifted quite badly on there. I might have forgotten about it for a second or two. I thought this was a fantastic bedroom fragrance. I had this in the bedroom actually the whole time. I never put this in my more open space. In the bedroom, I'd say it was definitely getting to like a 6, maybe a 6.5 for strength and throw. And that's the reason why I didn't really try it out in my more open space. I kind of thought in my more open space, I'd probably be getting a 5 or a 5.5. But to me, this is like the perfect kind of fragrance that I like in the bedroom. It's just like kind of dark and mysterious. However, I don't think that this would make for a good cologne. You know, I wouldn't say that it's a mandel. I wouldn't say that it's a cologne fragrance either, because the sort of smooth sweetness of that honey, I don't think would really make for a great like personal fragrance. Because there's something about it that's just, it doesn't scream cologne or body care to me. The sort of sweetness of that honey, right? Oh man, I can't stop smelling this. Like, I don't think that I'm going to repurchase this because I found it on Amazon and I had to pay quite a bit for it. I think this cost me like $23 or $24 Canadian. I'm absolutely happy enough with it that I consider that like money well spent. However, I don't think that I would purchase it again. It's one of those fragrances that, for me, it's like a one and done, but in a really like positive way, you know? Like, I'm really glad that I tried it because it was really quite unique, you know? I was kind of expecting it to maybe be a little bit like something like Midnight Cocktails from Bath & Body Works, but with a bit of a sweet honey note to it. No, this is actually quite different, and it's that really good honey note and the peppercorn note that really separates this from a lot of other fragrances that I've smelled that are kind of in a similar vein. But this one really stands out for me. I think it is absolutely fantastic. It burned really well. I mean, look at this glass jar here. It's extremely clean. And I believe Village Candle does a 100% paraffin. Like, I don't even think that they put any soy in there. It says burn time 50 hours. And I did notice, like, considering it's 14 ounces, so it's really kind of the same size, same shape, same diameter as a Bath & Body Works or a Goose Creek candle. This really did burn for a longer time, though, than you usually get out of a Bath & Body Works or a Goose Creek candle. And I noticed that, like, it didn't take a long time to pool out, but the wax pools never got really, really deep. You know, I never caught it sooting. I mean, I don't want to get into the whole like soy wax, paraffin wax debate, but I've always thought that Village Candle has had an excellent paraffin wax blend. They've always burned really, really cleanly and done a decent job at projecting fragrance for me. And so, yeah, I was really happy with this. I almost just want to keep like this leftover little tiny bit of the candle to like smell from time to time. Like, for me, it's that unique of a fragrance, right? Like, I want to kind of like keep it around for a little bit just so I can keep referencing back to it and smelling it. Absolutely lovely. I really enjoyed this spiked tobac and honey from Village Candle. And it's actually making me want to try some of the other fragrances that they have out in this like gentleman's collection. Quite a few of them look really appealing to me and have like very interesting scent notes. Okay, so that is all of the candles that I have finished burning up in the last couple of weeks. Quite a few candles in the last couple of weeks, guys. How's your weekend going? What are you burning? What are you guys excited about right now? Please let me know in the comments below. I apologize, you know, I'm putting this out on a Tuesday. I'm finally on Christmas break now until like early January. I'm so excited. I had so many social commitments and stuff this weekend that I just was not able to get around to recording. We've got Christmas Eve tomorrow. We've got Christmas on Thursday. And then I am off to sunny Mexico, guys. Oh, I cannot wait to get out of this cold. I do plan on pre-recording some videos this week to post while I'm away. But a couple days after Christmas, we are off to Puerto Vallarta, baby, to bask in the sunlight. I'm very excited about that. The downside is that I'm going to be missing the first bit of semi-annual sale at Bath & Body Works. However, semi-annual sale is never really my favorite at Christmas time because Candle Day has just happened. you know? And so the only thing that really gets me excited about semi-annual sale in the winter is if we get like some new interesting candles coming out, which hasn't really happened for like winter semi-annual sale for quite a while. However, there has been a bunch of new stuff spotted in store recently. I'm picking up all of this information from Life Inside the Page. So there are 4 candles that have been spotted that I think we're definitely going to see on the shelves for semi-annual sale. And they are Palo Santo and Sage, Almond Croissant, Bergamot Waters, and Sun Ripened Peach. I don't think I've ever tried Sun Ripened Peach before. I'm not big on peach fragrances, so that's not something that I would have purchased if it ever had come out before. I like Palo Santo and Sage, Almond Croissant, and Bergamot Waters all right, but nothing very exciting. I mean, I'm hoping that we've got more news to come. There's also a bunch of 3-wick candles that are getting spotted that are kind of like aromatherapy situations. There's black chamomile, orange and ginger, vanilla and patchouli, which I'm very interested to try. Lavender and cedarwood also sounds good to me. And then we're getting cactus blossom, champagne toast, iced dragon fruit tea, and black cherry merlot. That's a bit of a snooze fest. What's a little bit more interesting is some stuff that we have seen in the test stores that's going to be coming out for spring. And let me tell you guys, I am already ready for spring. I really am. I mean, here where I live, we still have a really solid month, probably 2 months of winter left, but I'm just really over it this year for whatever reason. So some of the spring stuff that we can expect to see coming out, there's this one collection called Closer Home Collection. Once again, I'm getting all this information off of Life Inside the Page. If you guys are watching this channel, you're probably pretty familiar with that blog. Some of those candles are chocolate covered berries. I think a lot of people will be interested in that. Mahogany teakwood, yawn, vanilla cloud, meh, and wine cellar. I'm super excited for wine cellar. I don't think that we've seen wine cellar come out ever since Candle Day 2022. Maybe 2021. There was a Candle Day where they brought back, they did another, I think, like from the vault sort of situation. And that Candle Day we got like French baguette and like banana bundt cake and wine cellar. I'd be really, really excited to get my hands on some wine cellar. There's another collection called Seaside Scenes, and that's gonna have Coastal Cottage, Fresh Amalfi Lemon, Shoreline Hydrangea, and Strawberry Peach Sunset. I'd definitely be excited to smell Shoreline Hydrangea. I don't remember that candle if it's come out before. Hydrangeas always make me think of Madonna. There's this famous interview clip of Madonna where someone gives her a bouquet of hydrangea flowers or something, and after she kind of steps away from them, maybe she didn't think that she was still on a microphone, but she says to the person beside her, she's like, I absolutely loathe hydrangeas. And I actually also loathe the way that hydrangeas look, but I like the way that they smell. So, and a shoreline hydrangea sounds like maybe, all of these candles are seaside or whatever, but a nice floral kind of seaside situation, that would be lovely. And then we have a Spring Revival White Grounded collection with Backyard Honeysuckle, Blue Orchard Skies, and First Blooms of Spring. I'll be interested to smell First Blooms of Spring. A Spring Revival Proper collection with Fresh Cut Lilacs, Flower Child, Main Street Bakery, Morning Rainstorm, and Springtime in Paris. Morning Rainstorm is probably the only candle out of that bunch that I would be interested in. So just to sum it up, all of this stuff that we should probably be expecting to see if you guys are trying to plan ahead: Palo Santo and Sage, Almond Croissant, Bergamot Waters, Sun Ripened Peach, Chocolate Covered Berries, Mahogany Teakwood, Vanilla Cloud, Wine Cellar, Coastal Cottage, Fresh Amalfi Lemon, shoreline hydrangea, strawberry peach sunset, backyard honeysuckle, blue orchard skies, first blooms of spring, fresh cut lilacs, flower child, Main Street bakery, morning rainstorm, springtime in Paris, black chamomile, orange and ginger, vanilla patchouli, lavender and cedarwood, cactus blossom, champagne toast, iced dragon fruit tea, and black cherry merlot. All right, so that's really all that's happening in terms of like what we've heard so far for some Bath and Body Works 3 wicks that we should be expecting. There's some exciting stuff on there. I'm not that upset that I'm going to be away in Mexico for the beginning of semi-annual sale. I'll be back in time to probably catch some 75% off candle action if that ever happens, and I probably will end up placing an online order for some stuff at some point. I'm just so excited to get the F out of this cold, you guys. Usually for New Year's Eve we go to Palm Springs. We've gone to Palm Springs every New Year's Eve for like years and years now. This year we just decided we're gonna switch it up a little bit, go to PV. We've already got plans for the gay bar on New Year's Eve. We're doing an all-inclusive, so I really doubt that we'll be leaving the resort all that much, except for maybe on New Year's Eve to make some friends and do a little bit of partying. I'm very excited for that. Like I said, I'm going to try to pre-record some videos. I'm definitely going to pre-record a weekly wax wrap-up, and depending on if my Goose Creek candle haul gets here on time, I'll probably do a candle haul video for that as well. Now, let's do a burning question. I've got this burning question from Krista, and Krista is from Winnipeg. I have a lot of family in Winnipeg, actually. Winnipeg is where both of my parents are from. They moved to Calgary in the 80s before I was born. Anyways, this says, "Hi Greg, this is Krista from Winnipeg. I know you don't like picking favorites, but I was hoping you'd like to share your top 5 Christmas picks from Bath and Body Works. Since semi-annual sale is coming up soon and it's a good time to stock up on Christmas stuff for next year, I'm very curious what your picks would be. What is backup worthy to you?" This was a really, really well-timed question, Krista, because a lot of my top 5 picks were actually in the weekly wax wrap-up this week, or they were in the weekly wax wrap-up last week. So I'm not going to need to talk about all these fragrances a lot. You can just navigate the chapters in this video to see what I feel about most of them. But, I had a really hard time narrowing it down to 5. Krista, you obviously watch this channel quite faithfully, since you know that I don't like picking favorites. I've never done videos that are like, my top 10 spring candles, my top 20 Goose Creek candles. I have such a hard time. I've got a really wide variety of tastes, so I have a really hard time narrowing things down. But I really wanted to answer your burning question, and I was able to narrow it down to 6. I was able to narrow it down to 6, but I couldn't do 5 because I really felt like I needed to add in Snowflakes and Cashmere. And so Snowflakes and Cashmere gets the 6th spot. I really, really like this one. This is probably out of fairly new wintertime fragrances from Bath and Body Works. This is one of my favorite newer fragrances that they've done. I think this first started coming out maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. And like I said, I think that the best version right now is probably this version. I do still see these on the shelves at my location. I don't know if they're still going to be around for semi-annual sale or not. But yeah, I had to make it a top 6 because I really wanted to include Snowflakes and Cashmere and put it in 6th place. So then my 5th place choice would be Under the Christmas Tree, which I also just talked about today. I'm hesitant to recommend the version that is on the shelves right now because if you just watched my sort of review of this candle, this year's version didn't really perform as great for me as last year's version did. scented. However, Under the Christmas Tree is definitely a fragrance that we see at every semi-annual sale. We always see Under the Christmas Tree, and like we still usually have like 3 different versions of Leaves and 'Tis the Season. But yeah, when it comes to my top 5, I would definitely say that Under the Christmas Tree places in spot number 5. Since these are like my very favorite like Bath and Body Works Christmas or winter fragrances, I don't have any cookies or cakes or gourmands or bakery stuff in here. My number 4 slot has to go to winter, and I talked pretty extensively about this candle in my last weekly wax wrap up if you want to check it out, and I actually talked about it a little bit today. The scent notes are white woods, pine needles, sparkling clementine, and spiced clove. Oh, this is a good one. I really love Winter from Bath and Body Works. It's been coming out forever. It's a classic. It's a really, really good one. So then in 3rd place, I would have to say Vanilla Birch. Once again, just finished covering this one in the weekly wax wrap up this week. I love Vanilla Birch. Absolutely makes my top 5 like winter fragrances from Bath and Body Works. And honestly, it probably would make like my top 10 very, very favorite like Bath and Body Works candles if I had to. And if you guys like this fragrance and you see this version out and about, I just can't recommend it enough. I really think that it's one of the most beautiful and the strongest versions of Vanilla Birch that we've had in a long time. Coming in 2nd place here is Vanilla Balsam. And this is the version that we like just got for Candle Day this year. And I am about halfway burning it, and it's doing all right. It is not, I really don't think that it is as strong as I remember it being in previous years. I think that this Vanilla Balsam, it's doing all right. I'd say that it's probably like, in my more open space, it's giving me about a 5.5 so far for strength and throw. So it definitely has like a noticeable presence to it, but it seems like it's lighter than before. I feel like I've had versions of Vanilla Balsam that have been like a 6.5 or a 7, and this one is not hitting that mark for me. It's balsam for frosted vanilla and snow-capped pine needles. I think that there's something just so special and fantastic about the simplicity of this fragrance. There's really not a lot going on in there. It's really just 2 things, vanilla and balsam, but they're balanced so beautifully. Like, oh, it's got like that sort of crisp balsam vibe to it, and it's just smoothed out so nicely by a good, like, creamy, smooth, slightly sweet vanilla. Yeah, I love Vanilla Balsam. This is definitely in my number 2 spot for top 5 winter candles from Bath and Body Works. Now, I really had a difficult time deciding on my number 1. I wasn't sure if I wanted to make this candle the number 1 just based off of the fact that it hasn't come out for a couple of years. So the earliest that it's probably going to be available is next year, if it does come out next year. And so I really struggled like deciding whether or not I should put this one on the list. But what you asked for was my top 5 favorite like Christmas picks, and my number 1 has to go to Winter White Woods. We haven't seen this candle for a hot minute. When did this one come out? This one came out in 2023, so I guess it hasn't been that long. Why does it feel like it's been so long? You know, when they don't put out one of your favorite candles for a couple of years, it feels like it's been a lifetime. And that's actually why I haven't burned this one yet, because it's the last one that I have in my collection, and I'm just not willing to part with it until I get some more. But this was an absolutely gorgeous version of Winter White Woods that we saw in 2023, and I've burned it a couple of times. It usually does pretty well. I'd say that this was getting to like a 6 for strength and throw in my more open space. It is lovely. The scent notes on Winter White Woods are glistening icicles, dried cedarwood bark, spiced sandalwood. I mean, oh, this is so nice. It's so woodsy, and It has like a little bit of a spice note to it, and it says spiced sandalwood. It's not spiced as in like a cinnamon or a nutmeg or anything like that. It's spiced in like, it's got like, you know how some wood has a little bit of a spiciness to it, you know? And I usually associate a spicier wood with cedar wood. Cedar wood tends to have a little bit of a bite and be a little bit sharper, you know? I would actually reverse some of the words in these scent notes because it says that it's dried cedar wood bark and spiced sandalwood. I'd actually say that it's dried sandalwood and spiced cedar wood. If I'm really nitpicking here, but this is just a beautiful, woodsy, rounded, soft, but also like robust fragrance. Oh my God, I love this so much. And like I said, I'm not willing to burn this one until we get it back again because I need to have a Winter White Woods in my collection. There are not very many candles that I will hang on to like this if I don't have a backup. You know what I mean? But Winter White Woods is definitely one of them. There's something I think so special about this fragrance. I was just talking to Katie from Katie's Joyful Life. Shout out to Katie. If you guys are into Kringle candle, Homeworks candles, or caramel sundaes, I would definitely recommend giving Katie a follow over at Katie's Joyful Life. She is just like an absolute ray of sunshine, and she covers those brands really, really well. She's an ambassador, I think, for Kringle, and I think for Homeworks as well. She's just fantastic and like so cheery. I love her. I was DMing with her a couple of days ago, and you know, she was telling me that she sat out on Candle Day this year, and the only thing that would have probably got her back into the store would have been if they had released a Winter White Woods. And yeah, you know, this does smell. There's something kind of elevated about this fragrance. There's something really nice and special about it. It does smell a little bit more like one of those fragrances that a company like Kringle or Homeworks would do really well, but it's a Bath and Body Works candle and you can get it at a much better price point than that, you know? Yeah, it's just nuanced and lovely and soft, but also strong, you know? That's what I really, really love. Like my favorite types of fragrances are fragrances that have that juxtaposition in them. You know, same thing with vanilla balsam, like the smooth sweetness of the vanilla and then like the sharpness of the balsam in there. And even like vanilla birch and under the Christmas tree, like my favorite types of candles are definitely candles that have that sort of contrasting, you know, vibe to the scent notes. But that's what we call, you know, like balance in the fragrance community, right? That's kind of what balance is. And yeah, just lovely. I love Winter White Woods. I'm sorry that you're probably not going to be able to get one. If you ever do see it pop up on the shelves next year at some point, I really, really recommend checking it out. Okay, we need to catch up a little bit on our trashy TV talk, folks. I know that not everybody sticks around for the end of these videos, but the people that do were very, very passionate about it, and I appreciate your emails, my friends. We need to talk a little bit about the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. You know, there's not a lot going on right now in the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. It felt like the first half of the season was really spectacular and bonkers and wild, and it feels like we are basically just spending the last half of the season kind of continuing to rehash all of the stuff that popped up in the first half of the season. You know what I mean? Like, there was that big problem on the plane with like Meredith and Lisa just harassing Brittany. Eventually, Meredith sat down with Brittany and kind of gave her one of those really half-assed apologies. You know, Meredith was like, I'm really sorry about that. I'm usually a very respectful person, and I apologize if anything that I said or did hurt your feelings. I mean, just like such a classic, like half-assed housewives apology. You know, when somebody says, I'm sorry if what I did made you feel this way, That's not an apology. That's what I call a Real Housewives of apology. An apology is saying, I'm so sorry I said that. I shouldn't have said that. Not saying, I'm so sorry that what I said made you feel bad. Like, to me, that's just so insulting. But Meredith really is just, she's a fascinating woman to watch, but she really is kind of like weird and salty. And, it was just that TikTok that really kind of sent me over the edge. And I'm usually very respectful, and I really do apologize if what I said or did made you feel a type of way. And Brittany just really actually, I think she was actually just so surprised to get any sort of an apology from Meredith at all, that she was just like, that's okay, Meredith. Thank you so much for apologizing. I really appreciate it. And I'm sorry that I told everybody about that TikTok in which your husband was flirting with a woman in the back of an Uber car. Like, Brittany just doesn't really seem to have very many lights on upstairs. Let's just say she seems a little bit less than smart. That's the most polite way that I think I can sum up how I feel about Brittany. Now, what we really need to talk about is Bronwyn and Todd. Oh my goodness, you guys. Bronwyn and Todd have had other conversations, ever since I last did a recap about that. They've had more conversations with Bronwyn just really trying to be optimistic and positive and get through to her husband and work on their marriage. And Todd just being like, I don't really know why we need to talk about this. I don't really know why we are having to go there. I don't know why you are friends with these women. And this isn't really something that I think that we should be discussing. I just don't think we should be discussing it. I mean, he's just the grouchiest fuddy-duddy. I think he might be the most unlikable husband that we have ever seen on the Real Housewives franchises, any of them. He's just horrible. And so, it came as no surprise to me. News has broken, people, that Bronwyn and Todd have split up. They are dunzos. Nada. They are splitting up. And we don't know this because it's happened on the TV show. It hasn't happened on the TV show yet. It's happened in real life. And so we're hearing about things now that are happening in real time but haven't happened on the show yet. I'm guessing that the reunion's probably filmed. It's nearing the end of the season, so they're probably doing the reunion episodes. And I'm guessing, because then we flash forward to however many months later. So Bronwyn is probably going to be revealing on the reunion episodes that her and Todd have separated. They released a statement to People magazine that said, a representative for Bronwyn, 40, confirms to People exclusively that, after thoughtful consideration, Bronwyn Newport and Todd Bradley have separated. This was a mutual decision made with care and respect for one another, and they ask for privacy during this time. I called it, guys. I had no way of knowing that they were actually going to separate, but when I was recapping the very first episode of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City this season, I said that this TV show was going to be the end of their marriage. Roll the tape! And her husband, Todd, is this old, grumpy fuddy-duddy who doesn't want to have anything to do with this at all. I've got a feeling that this show is going to ruin their marriage. I really don't think that Todd and Bronwyn are going to last. He's just so grumpy and doesn't want the cameras in his house at all. Did I call it or what? Not like it exactly takes a Nostradamus to predict that a Real Housewives marriage is going to be ending, but I didn't think it would be ending this quickly. I mean, this means that in real life time, Todd and Bronwyn have been breaking up as the show has been airing. So I can just picture him sitting on the couch watching it, just getting madder and madder and madder that Bronwyn is having a good time and talking about him behind his back and all of this BS that's going on. I don't think that Todd is going to be playing ball at all. I don't think that we should be expecting to see him at the reunion. We will probably never see or hear from him again. It's just going to be Bronwyn, keeping us up to date with what's been happening. So yeah, I mean, Real Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, I feel like more interesting stuff has been happening off screen than on screen. Like on screen, they've all just like the dust has just kind of been settling. You know what I mean? But also another thing that's happened is Jen Shah has been released from prison early. I mean, Jen Shah has just got to be one of the worst, most diabolical housewives that have ever appeared on any of the franchises. I think that people were saying that she was going to be put away in jail for like 6 or 7 years, but I don't know how it all works. She's been having good behavior or whatever. So she's actually going to be getting out within like 2 years, like 2 or 3 years from the time that she went to jail. And so the big question is Jen Shah going to be coming back to the cast? And I do not think that she is. I just don't think that Andy Cohen is down with Jen Shah. And honestly, I'm okay with that. She seemed like such a toxic, horrible, nasty bitch that, like, you know, it honestly, she kind of made me uncomfortable almost. There was always something about her that was just really kind of dark and diabolical. And I really don't think they're going to let her come back. Like, there's been a lot of housewives that have gone to jail. I mean, let's look at the Real Housewives mugshot Hall of Fame here. A lot of housewives have gone to jail and then come back to the show and have almost had like a comeuppance, you know, like, you know, really made up for what they've done. But what housewives usually go to jail for is like, you know, like a DUI that never really ended up hurting anyone, even though that's like terrible and like very dangerous. You know, there's been a couple DUIs like Shannon Bedore and several others. There was Countess Luann who like assaulted a police officer and then she came back better than ever and did Countess Luann's show and like, you know, went back to becoming like one of everybody's like favorite housewives. So there's a lot of housewives that have gone to jail and then been able to make a really good comeback. I don't think that that's happening with Jen Shah because Jen Shah was running one of those criminal like spam rings and like ripping old people off of like their retirement funds. You know, like she ran one of those scams that was like telling old people to invest all of their retirement funds and then poof, never see them again. Like she really ruined people's lives, you know? I don't think that there's much of a chance that we're going to be seeing Jen Shah come back. And so, yeah, most of the interesting stuff has been happening off screen, and that's just fine. Because we have also had a new season of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills has started. Beverly Hills is probably my favorite of all of the Real Housewives franchises. And the first couple episodes of this season have not been disappointing at all. And we finally got their tagline. So let's just go through all of the girls that we've got this year and their taglines. We'll start off with Kyle. She is the most OG person at this point on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and her tagline is, "In this town, styles come and go, but diamonds last forever." And Kyle, she was really boring last season, so her and her husband Maurizio have split. They are separated. Maurizio is out like whoring himself out. He's been photographed, you know, multiple times making out with girls that are half his age and just really hoeing it up. And Kyle went and, you know, dipped her pool into the lesbian pond a little bit. There's nothing I love more than a late in life lesbian. You know what I mean? Like a woman who's just like, you know, I'm done with men. Marriage is over. I can't be bothered dating any men in this city at my age. You know what? I'm a dip my toe into the Scissor Sister pool a little bit. And so she had a very high profile love affair with that country music artist. What was her name? Was it Morgan something? I'm gonna make you love me. And Kyle was like, played her love interest in like one of the music videos, like was not keeping it quiet that they had something going on. And then they kind of broke up. And Kyle like never talked about Morgan ever again. And it's been really very frustrating because, you know, the whole point of the show is that you're supposed to talk about your love life. But, you know, Kyle's been talking about, you know, being a bit of of an empty nester and her daughter's growing up, and Maurizio, they've split up and he's been, spotted with multiple girls that are half his age. But Kyle hasn't really shared what really happened between her and Morgan, and if she's bisexual now, if she's full-blown lesbian now, like none of us know. She finally kind of sort of addressed it in like the second episode of this season, and what she said basically was that Morgan didn't like the attention that she was getting from dating Kyle, and Kyle really seemed heartbroken over it. It sounds like Morgan broke up with Kyle. Morgan was like, I just can't do this. Like, I can't look at my social media anymore. Real Housewives fans are crazy and it's not what I want. I'm a real musician. I want to focus on my country music career. I don't want headlines about me to be about the fact that I'm dating a Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I don't want to be on the show anymore. So it sounds like Taylor broke up with Kyle, and that Kyle is like genuinely heartbroken over the situation. Like, she really, really, really seemed upset about it when she was talking about it in the episode the other night. And my heart really kind of went out to her, honestly. Like, it sounds like she was, it doesn't sound like she wanted her marriage to Maurizio to end. And then she got together with Taylor, and it sounds like Taylor left her in the lurch, and it seemed like she really actually liked her. So I actually feel bad for Kyle, but I'm so glad that she like cleared things up. And then we've got the new addition to the cast this season, who I'm sure most of you have heard of before, Rachel Zoe, a really famous stylist. I think she first got famous being on like a reality show where she was like a stylist and friend to like Paris Hilton or Kim Kardashian. I'm not sure. I really don't know that much about her, and I never watched her show that was on Bravo like a long time ago. But Rachel Zoe's tagline this year is, I die for fashion, but right now I'm living for me. And it's really coming across like the main reason why she wants to be on this show is that so she can like badmouth her husband. She just got divorced from some guy, and it sounds like he turned out to be a complete and total nightmare. And he's doing the same thing to Rachel that Maurizio is doing to Kyle, in that he's just running around letting the paparazzi take pictures of him with all of these girls that are half his age. And Rachel Zoe is just like, we've got young children. Like, there is a little bit of a difference there when you have young children and you're high profile like that, and your husband is just running around cheating on you, having affairs. They've split up. He's continuing his shenanigans. Like, and I think that like what Rachel Zoe is really getting off on is being able to go on this show and just talk about how awful he is. It's kind of funny, honestly. And good for her, good for her. And then we've got Bose. And Bose, I'm really kind of bored with. I'm a little bit on the fence about Bose. Her tagline this season is, I turn ambition into an art form, and I am the masterpiece. And Bose is like really level-headed. Her role last season and so far this season has basically been to be like a mediator between all the girls, kind of be like a bit of a voice of reason, but she just doesn't have anything that interesting ongoing herself, like she used to be like the CEO of Netflix or something. Like, she is like a legit like big business woman special. And, there's just nothing really all that entertaining or exciting about, a really smart, funny, self-aware, attractive, beautiful woman who has a good head on her shoulders and makes smart life choices and has a lot of self-awareness. There's just nothing really that exciting about like a beautiful, smart woman who has her act together. You know what I mean? So she's really not one of the most interesting ones in my opinion. However, I have a bad feeling she's in this relationship right now with this guy, and I forget what his name is. Real handsome dude, but he just seems a little bit too eager to like be on camera and be filmed. Like, I'm getting a little bit of a whiff of an opportunist here, and Bose is making up this whole storyline about should they have kids or not. She's like 43 or 44, maybe older than that. Not to say that you can't have kids at that age, but like it felt like last season she was thinking that they were just gonna like magically get pregnant. I don't really think it's gonna be that easy. And I almost wonder if she's kind of self-producing a lot of this because she knows that she's a pretty squeaky clean, smart businesswoman without a lot of juice there. So she's kind of playing up this relationship and playing up, oh, I don't know if I want to have another kid at my age or not. Seems like there's quite a bit of sort of self-producing going on there, which just really isn't that interesting and very obvious most of the time. And speaking of self-producing, we've got good old Sutton here. She's one of my least favorites. She's definitely my least favorite of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, but she's probably one of my least favorite housewives ever. You know, she's just one of those women. She's got way more money than she does actual taste, and she's just such a snob, and she's horrible to Dorit, and she's not consistent in like her viewpoints or her opinions. You know, she really, I think, just wants to be on this show so bad and wants to be friends with these women so badly that she'll do just about anything to really make herself relevant, and that never really sits well with me. Her tagline this season is, I might live on a main road, but I definitely bring main character energy. So it was like a big deal at the end of last season when Garcelle Bouvet, you know, just up and left the reunion without taking the group photo. Garcelle Bouvet and Sutton, I think, really thought that her and Garcelle were really close friends. But as we learn at the beginning of this season, that when Garcelle Bouvet up and left the cast, she left all of those friendships behind. She doesn't talk to any of the girls anymore. And I think Sutton is the most upset about it because I think Sutton might have thought that they really had a genuine friendship, which once again, Sutton, a little bit less than smart here. Because once again, Garcelle Bouvet is just a really beautiful, smart, classy woman with a good head on her shoulders who, you know, I think is just doing this show to make a paycheck. I don't think she ever really considered Sutton one of her best friends, and it's pretty obvious that she didn't because once she left the show, she never talked to Sutton again. And Sutton's acting like she's really torn up about it and really upset about it, and I think that she might just be playing that up for the cameras a little bit as well. But Sutton had another breakup happen with her assistant Avi, and people are asking, they go over to Sutton's house and the girls are asking, like, she's got a new gay assistant. And the girls are like, where's Avi? Where's your assistant? And Sutton's like, we've ended our professional relationship. He doesn't work for me anymore. But she she's not willing to give us the details. And so I did a little bit of digging on the internet, and I never was able to find out why Sutton fired Avi, but it was very interesting for me to learn that Avi has like a wife and 3 children. Like, I mean, I hate to be judgmental, stereotypical, whatever, you know. It's complicated out there these days. There's a lot of gay acting men who are straight and a lot of straight acting men who were gay. But I was very surprised to learn that this assistant Avi, very surprised to learn that he had a wife and 3 kids, you know. Maybe it really just was like a very sort of professional like divorce. I mean, I don't know. But there's something happening because Avi went to Garcelle Bouvet's movie premiere. Like, that is so shady. Garcelle Bouvet invited Sutton's assistant, Avi, but hasn't spoken to Sutton since she left the cast of the show. Very strange, and I've got a feeling that we're going to learn more. There's also this new girl named Amanda. I'm not very interested or excited for Amanda, you guys. I've got to tell you that. Her tagline is, I didn't marry into money, I manifested it. And she knew Kyle for a while, which I guess was her like in to get on the show. She actually bought Kyle's old house off of her. And apparently this woman, she's released a whole bunch of books about how to manage your money, how to be an independent woman with money, what you need to watch out for if you're a rich woman. Like, I can't really figure it out, but she does not seem all that interesting or compelling to me. And then we've got Erica Jane. Erica Jane, I live for. I've actually had the pleasure of seeing Erika Jayne live multiple times, and man, does Erika Jayne ever put on a good show. I just love her so much. I mean, she is definitely one of the gay icons, one of the biggest gay icons that we've ever got out of these Real Housewife franchises. She's just fantastic. And her tagline this season is, "Survival isn't my story, it's my superpower," because she has been through it. So her ex-husband, or maybe they're even still technically married, I'm not sure, but her ex is Tom Girardi. Now, for those of you who don't know, if you ever saw the fantastic Julia Roberts movie, Erin Brockovich, you know how that movie is all about Julia Roberts, like, you know, she starts working for a law firm, although she's not a lawyer, and kind of helps this law firm, you know, press charges against this company that had been poisoning this community with their factory that they had. And so the lawyer in that movie, in real life, is Tom Girardi, Erika's ex. And so it's always been a very interesting storyline there, because Tom Girardi was a very, very rich, extremely successful lawyer, and then a huge downfall. Apparently, once again, the scamation of it all, he had been ripping off hundreds of people for millions of dollars throughout his career as a lawyer, and it all blew up, and Erika Girardi went through a really dark couple of years because Tom Girardi was getting sued. Erika had to move out of the house and separate from him. And now he's in jail and he's suffering from like really, really bad like dementia and stuff. And I mean, it's really actually quite dark and messy. But Erika Jayne's tagline is perfect. "Survival isn't my story, it's my superpower." She really has pulled through. I genuinely don't think that she had any idea that Tom Girardi was a con artist lawyer. I really think that she's pretty innocent in all of this. And, you know, she's always served interesting TV. You know, she's been on Broadway. She was in Chicago as Roxy Hart. And she, you know, releases all this music. It's expensive to be me. I mean, she really puts on a good show live. I saw her last time at the Calgary Stampede a couple of years ago, and she was so good. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with her storyline this season. A lot of her storyline now is all about kind of like getting her life back together and having to make her own money. And, you know, she's a really interesting one for sure. And then, of course, we've got Dorit. And Dorit actually inspired Sutton's tagline, because Sutton's tagline was, "I might live on a main road, but I definitely bring main character energy." And that whole main road thing is a reference to Dorit, because last season when Dorit and Sutton, they had it out multiple times, big, huge knockdown fights. And one of the things that Dorit said, well, Sutton would say to Dorit, "Maybe you should mess with somebody whose wallet fits." And Dorit was like, "Don't act like you're all that, Sutton. You live on a main road, for Christ's sake." So funny. Anyways, so Dorit's tagline this season is, "I'm unfiltered, unbothered, and finally unburdened," because she is also going through a really messy divorce right now with PK. Oh, PK, the love of my life, PK. Dorit has like this weird accent. Nobody knows why. She kind of has like an English accent. "Oh, PK, the love of my life." Turns out, not so much the love of her life. They were breaking up last season, and last season PK would still film. And so you'd see the conversations between the two of them where it's kind of like, are we together? Are we not together? What are we going to do about the kids? All that stuff. Apparently things have gotten much more nasty ever since last season, because now it seems like PK is basically refusing to film and has stopped paying for the bills, stopped paying for the mortgage on the house. Dorit and PK have always had like financial trouble, rumors kind of swirling about them, and it really seems like all of that stuff is about to come to a head. I actually feel really sorry for Dorit, but I love the fact that she is now unfiltered, unbothered, and unburdened because she is serving up the good television. She is just saying on camera, PK's an alcoholic, he's done this, he's done that, he's not paying the bills. She's smoking in her car, which was a really fairly iconic moment. Like, Dorit went from being one of my least favorite housewives ever to now I would honestly say that she might be in my top 10. Like, she really is giving us some good TV. That's all I really have to say about the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. But speaking of good TV, I just need to talk to you guys about a show that is genuinely fantastic and I'm really enjoying, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments section or send me an email at allabootcandles@gmail.com. Stranger Things. Stranger Things. Oh my goodness. I love this show. I've loved this show ever since season 1. And there's been like some rough patches. There's been some episodes throughout the years that have maybe not been fantastic. But I always feel like it's been consistently like really compelling, fantastic, like nostalgic TV. Especially for me, like I was born in 1983. And I think that the TV series kind of takes place in like 1986, 1987. So it just gives all the feels, all the nostalgia. The kids in this show are all such good actors. I mean, it's got everything. It's got sci-fi, fantasy. It's really actually a really wonderfully character-driven show at the heart of it. And I just love it so much. And Netflix, you guys at Netflix are scoundrels. It's the final season happening right now, season 5, and they released the first 4 episodes on American Thanksgiving. They're releasing the next 3 episodes at Christmas, and then they're releasing the final episode on New Year's Eve. I mean, talk about a brilliant like marketing plan, but also these are not the times of year where I am personally doing my TV watching, and all of these episodes are like an hour and a half each. So I'm making time for it. I'm all caught up right now. I'm not going to talk too much about the actual plot because I don't want to spoil it for anybody that's like not caught up yet, or I think a lot of people are probably just waiting until all of the episodes come out to watch it. But I cannot recommend this TV show enough. It's brilliant. It's emotional. It's cinematic. It's everything. I just love Stranger Things so much, and you better believe that I will be making time probably on the Boxing Day. I will be making time to watch the next couple episodes on Boxing Day, and I already told the boyfriend. Luckily, Stranger Things is one of the few TV shows that the boyfriend and I agree on, and so we are going to be watching the final episode on New Year's Day in our hotel room in Puerto Vallarta. I'm very much looking forward to the finale of Stranger Things. Let me know in the comments section if you guys are watching it too, and what you think is going to happen. I mean, I don't know if I've ever been so on the edge of my seat to see how a television show is going to end, because Stranger Things just has me hooked. I'm just on the edge of my love seat. It is so good. Whew. Anyways, folks, that brings us to the end of this weekly Wax wrap-up. Thank you so much for tuning in to me today. I love you for watching. You can follow me on Instagram at allabootcandles and email your burning questions to allabootcandles@gmail.com. If you could hit me up with a like, comment, subscribe to my channel, and give me some of those hype points. I don't know what they do, but if you could give me some of those hype points, I would really appreciate it so much. I'm going to be pre-recording some videos to release over the holidays and whatnot, so stay tuned for those. And until next time, my dear, gorgeous, and beautiful candle-loving friends, let's burn some candles and bitch about it. Thanks, you guys. Bye for now.